Saif Khan was a senior at Yale in 2015 when he was accused of assaulting a fellow student on Halloween night.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Matthew and Carlene channel. Today, we are covering how a man's rights were grossly violated by modern Western women here in the West at Yale University. Let's get into it.
The woman claimed that Khan raped her after she admittedly had too much to drink. Khan denied the accusations, was arrested, and faced a criminal trial. It took a jury 3 hours, just 3 hours, to acquit him on all charges. The story, of course, didn't end there. There was a hearing on Yale's campus in which Khan and his lawyer were unable to cross-examine his accuser. They were not even allowed to be in the same room when she testified. Yale suspended Khan and eventually expelled him. But now the Connecticut Supreme Court has found that Yale's kangaroo court was so unfair, they issued a ruling in Khan's favor, in the accused favor. They wrote that Khan's lawyer's inability to cross-examine the accused reduced them, and we're quoting now, to the role of a potted plant, saying fundamental fairness requires meaningful cross-examination in proceedings like the one at issue. They found Khan could actually sue his accuser for defamation, something he is doing now. And Saif Khan joins us now. Saif, I appreciate you being.
All right, everybody. I'm going to be honest with you. I can definitely relate to what Saif Khan is going through right now. I can definitely relate to it because I went through something very similar my first year of college. Candid, it wasn't to this far of an extreme, mostly because I never had a sexual relationship with my primary feminist aggressor. Never did, but still very similar. What happened was, at the co-ed housing unit I was at for my first year of college, there was a feminist woman there who decided she didn't like me. She made a whole bunch of hearsay, he said, she said accusations towards me that were very broad and base, turned the entire housing unit against me. I'll be honest with you, these accusations, they were so frivolous, no one could really do anything about it. But that didn't stop her from succeeding in turning the entire housing unit against me. Finally, my college decided they had enough. They sent a representative to my housing unit. We had a full dormitory meeting. That representative said, if you have enough time to try to get someone expelled from this university, you have no excuse anymore for why you're not getting straight A's in every single one of your courses. We will no longer waste any more resources pretending otherwise. And if you don't cease and desist, there will be consequences. I don't know what those consequences were. I'm not privileged to that information, but I do know that they must have been pretty severe because the behavior in my housing unit did a complete and total flip. Everyone at my housing unit ended up becoming very overly affectionate towards me, while simultaneously turning on the feminist that was my primary aggressor. As for the feminist that was my primary aggressor, she transferred to a different college. Point is, if you're a man who's going through this, you're not alone. There are others who are going through this, and we're here for you.
In here, you're suing Yale University for $110 million on the basis that the university violated your rights throughout the investigation process. Help us understand, is your issue with the university and with the accuser? And I'm wondering why you wouldn't want to just move on from all this.
Well, good afternoon, first of all, Leland, and thank you for having me. And well, my father and my grandfather, as they grew up in Afghanistan, have taught me to fight for principles, fight for what is correct. And so Yale has taken away my 20s, and I'll give them my 30s, and I will stand for what is fair. And so I'm suing the university, Jane Doe, and 13 Yale administrators who tend to be at the root.
Hey guys, apologies for interrupting so soon again, but I just want to answer that reporter's question, which is, there is no real possible way you can move on from this unless if you get some kind of justice. There's no possible way. Like Sai Khan basically said in that interview, he pretty much lost 20 years of his life because of what that woman did. Unless he gets some kind of justice, that woman is still out there. She knows she can do this again without any consequences right now, unless if Sai Khan gets justice. She's laughing it up without a care in the world. I myself had a similar red pill moment with a church. The church I had my red pill moment on, it's one of my most popular YouTube episodes. I was part of that church since 2016 till 2024. Those were years of my life that were gone, completely wasted. I think that's one of the many reasons why YouTube channels like these are so important. Because for a lot of us men, it's the only real form of justice we're ever going to get because of what the feminist movement has done. It really is.
Cause of this Kafkaesque nightmare. And while I had deep respect and admiration for the true American justice system, even though it has flaws, the democratic constitutional republic has created a justice system that has cross-examination and a plethora of protections that protect both real victims and who accuse and people who are innocent. And that filtering out of the process based on the truth and based on evidence is something that the justice system does. And the Connecticut Supreme Court, as you pointed out, showed that...
I want to get to this. So basically what we have here is we have two tracks of justice, right? You were arrested, you were put on trial. Your lawyers had the right, as every defendant does, to cross-examine those who are making accusations against you. And you were acquitted by a jury of your peers. That's the way the criminal justice system works. Then you're subjected to this, what I guess we could only call a kangaroo court, and the idea that the Connecticut Supreme Court sided with you over Yale says, I think, everything here about how unfair it was. This was Yale having its own sort of quasi-judicial system in which you can't cross-examine. Your lawyers weren't allowed to be in the same room as the hearing, on and on and on and on. We've done a lot of work on this about Title IX and how unfair these hearings are. My question is this: is the issue that Yale did what the federal government wanted them to do, or Yale sort of went beyond the unfairness that even the federal government allows and had its own sort of hearing system?
I think Yale University actually went way beyond what the federal government actually allows. Personally, I think there should be very serious legal consequences for when Western women very successfully pressure a facility into acting like its own separate branch of government that is implementing and reinforcing its own laws while occupying U.S. soil. In this case, in fact, in many men's cases, pressuring the facility to change what the law says about legal consent without government approval. Because after all, last time I checked, vigilante justice was outlawed in this country. To answer your question on how this ends up happening, well, as you can clearly see here, a woman, most likely a feminist, makes a very broad complaint about a guy. Turns out law enforcement can't do anything about it because there's no evidence. Woman says that's not good enough, so she gathers all of her other fellow women to keep constantly making frivolous complaints about the exact same guy over and over and over again until the facility finally gives these women what they want in order to halt the chaos. That's what happened. However, that's only a temporary fix. It really is. Because there's going to be something else that will cause the exact same situation. There will be.
I believe it is a confluence of many factors, including the Dear Colleague letter that Obama had issued in 2011 and the investigation that the Department of Education was forcing universities to go through, within which universities would lose their federal funding, of which Yale receives hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Granted, most of those are about research, but the school is a corporation at the end of the day, and there's been a capture of the administration within the university by extreme Jacobin leftists that are raining their terror upon innocent kids. And in their calculation, they assume that being from Afghanistan and being vulnerable, I mean, I had $94 in my bank account when they kicked me out, summarily suspended me, and they contacted.
So I think about why you're suing, and we've often sort of questioned the civil lawsuits in these sort of huge numbers, but $110 million is an awful lot of money. You were acquitted, found not guilty by a jury of your peers. Now you want $110 million. How do you get? And I say this respectfully, though. I get that your reputation was ruined. I get that your 20s were taken from you, and it's why we're having you on, because it seems profoundly wrong. But how do you justify $110 million?
So that's largely a question for the jury.
Well, I can justify it. I think all that money is going to cover all the years of his life that he lost because of what happened. As a direct result of what those women did. I think that's a pretty fair, decent amount when you consider all the years that the man lost. I really do.
To determine, in the sense that what should we do when Yale is not merely adjudicating the process, but they're putting their grubby fingers on the scale. They had destroyed exculpatory evidence, and they were trying to mess with the prosecutor, and they had notes passed around that said, he's from Afghanistan, he must have done it because violence is accepted there. And why would they hate you so much? Why would they have it out for you? So it's again a confluence of factors. I tend to go with my principles. There was not much that Yale, when I was on campus, that people could do regarding me. I was not the easy to fit box of white straight male. And I largely spoke about issues that I thought was unfair, and including issues of politics, including issues related to gender.
Long story short, he did not agree with modern Western women's narrative, which of course is taboo for the majority of modern Western women, hence the reason why the current local Western marriage rates are plummeting. So, since you don't agree with modern Western women, you're out. That was literally the message. I know because I've seen that before. I've been through it. Yep, that's what happened.
Including issues to all sorts of stuff. I don't shy away from it. And so I'm not simply suing the university, I am taking down the entire system. Ultimately, I would prefer that colleges should never be in the business of adjudicating crime. Should we let them adjudicate murder, arson? What about tax fraud?
It's a fascinating question, and the pendulum is swinging. It swung so hard one direction, right? And obviously you were a victim of that, and now it's starting to swing back. And This lawsuit, the idea of being able to sue for defamation, really applaud your lawyers too, because it's a really interesting way of going after the university. We're going to keep following the case. Thank you. We appreciate it. And look, it takes somebody being willing to stand up for what's right and saying, I'm going to put a stake down and I'm going to fight for my freedom, as you did, and then I'm going to fight back against these universities in order to get change. So we applaud you for that. It's good seeing you. Come back and talk to us. All right.
Thank you for having me, Leland.
All right, everybody. That's all we got time for today. If you like this content, by all means, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment. It really helps us out. It really does. Have a nice day, everybody. Bye.